Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I get to simplify the marketing and the mindset for chiropractors so they can make more money, have more impact, and have a whole bunch more fun in their practice and lives too. Got a question for you. Have you ever wanted to write a book? I'm kind of surprised on one hand, but not on the other, just how many chiropractors feel like they've got a book in them. You know, we've got a message that we want to share. And so I guess it kind of makes sense that we might want to write a book. I have written a book before. I never got it published. I talk about it a bit in this episode. I did all the hard work. The first part of the book, it was called Bulletproof Your Back. I was kind of heading towards a very similar strategy to what we'll talk about on today's episode as well. But anyway, today's guest not only did write a book, but he got it published too. And it's an Amazon bestseller. His name is Scott Vatcher. He's an amazing chiropractor, Aussie, Canadian. I'm not sure what Scott would call himself. He's from Canada, originally studied there, but now an Aussie. In today's episode, Scott talks through the process that he went to write this book, but more interestingly, he shares how he's using the book to build authority and expertise and attract new patients into his practice. It's a really neat process he's going through. And then on top of that too, if you've wanted to write a book, but you struggled for time there as well, then Scott also he shares a strategy where he can help speed this entire process up for you, and you can co-author a book with him that will help you get the same results that he's getting to. Again, another really super neat strategy. Scott's one hell of a nice guy. I think you'll love this episode. I love chatting with Scott. Let's go and talk with Scott about how to write a book. Scott Vatcher, welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Very good in these crazy times.
Now, you've had a busy morning, but before we get into that, I've got a question for you, way more important than any of those things. Tell me, how in the heck did you come about meeting Motley Crue lead singer Vince Neil?
A good friend of ours, Lawrence Tam. I don't know if you know, we actually went to school together.
Really?
So we were good mates, myself and Lawrence, and a guy, Jamie Richards, out of Canada, who created Life by Design.
Yeah, I know Jamie as well. He's a previous podcast guest. In fact, both he and Lawrence are multiple guests on the podcast.
Nice. Yeah. So three of us had a mastermind. We were best mates in chiropractic school. So yeah, that takes us back. We graduated 2002. So, a little while ago now. Yeah. And so we've all gone our sort of separate ways, but have always kept contact. And anyways, he saw Vince at his, I think it was a Sydney concert. And Vince had done something with a rib and was just in pain and somehow got connected. And then Lawrence connected me with him for his Gold Coast show. So it was a very cool experience. Actually quite interesting. So backstage Motley Crue. What do you expect?
Well, I've got to imagine that there's been probably two phases to this, because I think if we were to go back 20, maybe 30 years ago, because they've been around a long time, I got to imagine there's substances and girls and alcohol and you name it there too. But I get a feeling now that I've read that Vince is pretty into his health now, and that is that right?
I believe so. So yeah, I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But I was blown away at what actually did happen. So we get backstage, and instead of like women and substances and well, there were women. There were two, I'll call them older ladies, probably 60s.
Yeah. Okay.
And a bunch of food laid out, and a couple of roadies sipping on coffees. So there was not a woman under 60. There was not a substance besides food. It was very surreal and really felt kind of like a truck stop. But backstage, I did get to meet Alice Cooper as well. That's nice. An interesting dude.
Yes.
He looks like he's 150 years old.
Yes.
That guy would have had a hard life.
Yeah.
But he is well into his golf.
He's a mad golfer, isn't he? Yes.
Mad golfer. And he was talking and he was saying how much he loved opening for Motley Crue.
Right.
He's like, this is the greatest gig ever. I don't have to worry. I just show up. My show is only 40 minutes instead of 90.
Yeah.
and he just goes and rocks it out for 40 minutes and he's done. So he's loving being like not the main guy.
And what was Vince like? I mean, I know sometimes having adjusted different celebrities and some in those circumstances as well, I've seen the range of them being super friendly and down to earth, and then to other times it being quite clinical and transactional. Get the adjustment, move on, dude, I've got a show to run. How was Vince?
He was quite, what would be the word? Reserved.
Yes.
You know, for a big rocker, he was just a very quiet, nice dude. His manager was not very nice.
Right.
He was the clinical dude. Like, dude, what? How much is this going to cost me? What? Really? And yeah, it was quite interesting. You know, I drove up from the Gold Coast, brought the table, did the thing. You know, it wasn't going to be nothing.
Yes.
So yeah, he was very clinical, but I probably spent about 15 minutes with Vince and his girlfriend, had a chat, adjusted him. Yeah, it was great. It was very interesting. Another, you know, sort of sidebar was they all had their own dressing rooms. I don't think they like each other. I don't. I think they're on the road for the money, and you know, they had nothing to do with each other.
It's a lot of time. You know, I know at different times, you know, Tony Rose, who's a good friend of both of ours, there too. Tony and I have travelled together at different times there too. And I couldn't be closer to that bloke, but sometimes you need some time apart. And we're not travelling for 30 years, you know. So time being separate, I got to imagine, because they're doing the same thing every night. You know, no one wants to hear Motley Crue's new songs. Like, you know, let's start ripping with Kickstart Your Heart. And
do they have new songs?
Yeah, well, see, there you go. I don't even know that.
They probably stopped recording 20 years ago.
Yeah, so they're playing their old things there too. I'm interested that you started off talking about a mastermind group that you were in with both Lawrence and Jamie. And the three of you have, you know, by many standards, done pretty extraordinary things, not just only in practice, but also expanded out of practice as well. How much of that mastermind, the group of you being together, do you think that's something that the three of you would have done independently, or was that important in encouraging and supporting that growth and development also?
I think both. You know, I think three of us were very driven people anyway. Probably would have made it work or done something. But with that said, you can't do it on your own, right? So throwing ideas off of each other and just having that process of opening up the mind more. And you just can't do it on your own, right? The ideas that come around from being in a group of like-minded people you can't understate that.
And how was that mastermind separate than just a friendship, for instance?
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the book. We actually bought these books, you know, back in the day when these paper books. And it was a full mastermind sort of journey. And I wonder if those guys remember what it was called. It was a fantastic book, and it sort of took you through the process of doing it. So although we were mates and we would hang out outside of a mastermind, we did have a separate time that we would do it. So I think that's really important as well, because you know, you can do a mastermind with mates and it ends up being just a couple of beers and a chat, right? So it's super important that it's a separate thing and that you're there to get a job done, so to speak.
And are you still actively involved in masterminds now, or with those guys under that kind of umbrella, or different or new masterminds?
Over the years, I've been part of a couple. At the moment, I'm not, but I think that would be probably a great idea for me to get back into, considering I've jumped ship, so to speak, changing up like career path and some things, which I'm sure we'll have a chat about. But like, yeah, so some changes happening. So I think getting into another mastermind would be fantastic. But for us, I think it was a proximity thing, right? Because we were all at the same school at the same time. There was a lot of time we skipped a lot of classes. I don't know how it works here, but at CMCC in Canada, there were certain classes that, you know, you were marked and, you know, absentee, you lose marks and things like that. But there was a lot of classes that weren't. And so we would, you know, we probably learned a lot more by doing things like masterminds at school than sitting down in a microbiology class type of thing. But yeah, once our proximity left. Myself, I can't remember if Lawrence, I think Lawrence came here to Australia before I did. I believe he did, but just before me, but it wasn't planned that way at all. And then Jamie left Toronto to go back to his hometown. So, the proximity left, and with us being all over the world, lost touch. We're still mates and we still have a chat every now and again, but life.
Let's give our listeners a bit of a background story before we kind of jump into what you're doing now as well. So graduated CMCC in 2002. And then what's the journey been from there over the last 20 years to now?
Yeah, well, I'll start out with a story that a lot of people don't know. I actually graduated in 2003 because I got in a little bit of trouble at school, almost got kicked out.
Tell me more.
So inside the clinic space where you do your fourth year adjustments and you have to get a certain amount of new patients and adjustments and things. Back in the day, all kinds of stuff was going on. Our school was strictly diversified.
Yes.
But all kinds of stuff was going on when you'd go in and observe. People were doing other techniques that they were learning, Thompson and this, and all kinds of different stuff that technically you weren't allowed to do, but were just sort of glazed over.
Yeah.
So I really got into network back in the day. And so myself and a couple other guys, messing around just like most people were in clinic. And for whatever reason, we're the ones that got caught. We're the ones that got made an example of. So we had to repeat first of all, it was a full-on, a lot of stuff going on. We had to get lawyers involved, all kinds of craziness. And I graduated 18 months after I was supposed to.
Wow.
And I had to redo my whole clinic year. So I had to do my whole clinic route, what's it called when you go and you do your adjustments and all that, clinical rounds or whatever you call it.
Yep.
To do all that again. And it was literally that close to just being kicked out altogether. So it was a pretty full on, it really tested my resolve to be a chiropractor, because there were points I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because it's not looking good that I'm ever going to be a chiropractor.
When you look back on that now, that whole period through there, what's the story or meaning that you give to that now?
I'd like to say it's something like follow the rules, but it's not. That's for me anyway. I don't know about the other guys. I won't mention the other names because I don't know. It was three or four of us anyway, who all had to do the same thing. Yep. And really it was, I guess, more about resolve. And when you really want something to keep going to get it, because it all works out. Well, this is actually it. And this is something that may have come about directly from that, but it'll all work out in the end.
Yeah.
It may not look the way you thought it was going to look, but it all works out.
Yeah. We watched a movie last night, Lauren and I, and one of the kind of quotes in the movie really was, look, it all works out in the end. And if it's not working out at the moment, it's not the end. And, I've been thinking about that a lot this morning. I've had some challenges in this last week, just in around this current environment that we're in and the difficulties with navigating movement through all of that too. And that quote for me has actually been quite comforting. And sometimes it's another version for me of this too will pass. I just have to remind myself of that as well. So graduated then, eventually, did you spend some time working in Canada before making the journey over here?
No. So because I was 18 months behind, when the day I graduated, I believe it was 2 or 3 days later, I was on a plane to Australia.
Yeah. And why Australia?
Really, because I didn't have anything else planned. And a couple of my mates who had graduated the year before had gone to Australia, and they were like, it's a great gig to do some locums. And so my plan was go to Australia for a year, locum, go to Spain for a year, locum, go to Ireland for a year, locum, and then go back to Canada.
Yeah. Okay.
And I got stuck here.
What was the cause of the stuckness?
It wasn't my wife.
Is she an Aussie?
That I did not meet her when I decided I was going to stay. So it was a couple of years later.
And that's Maya?
Maya.
And Maya's an Aussie?
Yes. but I had met her. I'd already had permanent residency on my way to being a citizen by the time I'd met her.
Yeah.
So really, it was just, I loved it here. And I just wanted to stay. I didn't know how long, I was I'm going to stay. I'll stay for another year or two or whatever. And 18 years later, here it is.
And was it the Gold Coast that you came straight to?
No, the first year and a half I locumed. So
Yes.
I all over the place.
Yep.
And then I did an associateship for a little while in the Sunshine Coast, and then another one here in the Gold Coast, and then bought a practice from there.
Who did you work with on the Sunshine Coast?
Ken Rasura.
Okay. Yeah, I know of Ken. Absolutely. I did my first year out in practice with Ray Henderson in Caloundra on the sunny coast there too. So maybe the first 18 months before I came back down to Melbourne. For our kind of international listeners there too, both the Sunshine Coast and the Gold Coast, when you kind of think of Australia and we're advertising Australia to the world, this is beautiful beaches, warm weather, crystal clear water, all that stuff tends to be the part of the world that Scott is in at the moment. I mean, Australia is beautiful all around, but down south where I am here is a very different climate to where Scott is. So you're in your practice, and of recent you've transitioned. You're not in practice at all now. You've fully out?
No, I still practice. So
Yes.
I'm still in the same practice, but have sold it.
Yeah, okay, got it. And then how much are you working at the moment?
2.5 days.
Yeah, okay, so not a great deal. Now, you recently have written a book. Congratulations. It's killing it over on Amazon. And this book is part of a new strategy of yours. Share with us what the book is and what the strategy is, and where you hope to go with that.
Sure. Yeah. The book was sort of born out of doing what I call a posture class at the practice.
Yes.
So over the years, I've, as a lot of us have as practitioners, have tried to engage clients more, right? Now, get them to change health habits, because we know that's where true health comes from. Everyone needs to be checked and adjusted when necessary, but the other health habits have a huge impact, of course. So I was part of Life by Design with Jamie that we talked about earlier. It talks about the eat, move, think scenario, and, done seminars and always had good turnouts. But in more recent years, just started doing what I call the posture class.
Yeah.
And that had the best turnouts by far and the most positive feedback from anything else. And it was super simple. It was a series of 10 exercises. We got everyone together, gave them like a 5-10 minute spiel on why posture and movement is so important, and show them 10 exercises, send them away with a piece of paper. And it was phenomenal. And people just loved it. And so did that for many years. And then when deciding to write a book, I was like, I think this can be bigger than just my practice. So the book is an extension of that. So it's called Move It or Lose It. And so it's really geared at the public. If you read it as a chiropractor, it'd be like, duh, not difficult. And that's the whole point. I actually had the best compliment so far was from a client of mine who English as a second language.
Yes.
When she was in, she bought the book, and she said, it was such a great book. I understood it.
Yes.
And as a second language, I was like, that's exactly what I wanted to get across from a book. And so it's got all the chiropractic principles sort of intertwined in there, but without the jargon.
Yeah.
So it's not talking about subluxation and things like that, which, as we know, is important, but the public doesn't know that. And my own personal perspective is us trying to get out to the public with that is the wrong move.
Yes.
It's too much of a bridge to gap. We've got to get out there.
No, totally. I it's not one of those first date conversations, metaphorically speaking. So not what someone wants to hear on their first visit, possibly not even on their second visit. And maybe they might pretend they're interested. But that's something down the track for us to kind of talk about.
Yes. So it's got the chiropractic principles in there. It talks about the Roger Sperry stuff with the spine and the movement, feeding the brain. And, so it's got a lot of cool stuff in it that's very simplistic. And then it goes into the sort of the second half of the book is about routines that you can do at home, and I've heard somebody, a number of people say, but a guy in practice yesterday was like, all these exercises are what my physio gave me. And I'm like, it's sort of like a physio in your pocket, right? Without having to go to the physio. So it's a way for us to bridge that gap of home routines. Yes. And the more I'm looking at the research here, movement and relative strength are some of the most important factors for longevity, even more than diet, which blows my mind. So it's a super cool place to be. Like, we're looking further into that research. Things like grip strength is one of the biggest determinants of longevity. It's like, what? That's amazing.
Right. And what sort of results? So first of all, how long is the book?
So the it's designed to be read in 1 or 2 sittings. So it's technically, I think, about 160 pages.
Yes.
But it's big type and there's a lot of pictures. So yeah, I mean, 1 or 2 sittings, probably 2 to 4 hours of reading.
I think it's interesting because you've tapped on a couple of different things there as well. Often as chiropractors, we're wanting to talk to our patients, our community, our audience about the body being self-healing, innate intelligence, the master control system, all these things here that really juice us up as chiropractors. And yes, there is a section of our patients that love this stuff there too. But, 25 years in practice, and, I put myself towards the better end of communication. What I realize is it's not what everybody wants, but we can jump on and we can access those conversations through things like posture. And posture, whether you be, a parent of young children, very focused on their posture, whether you be a triathlete that wants to, speed up her times in her races, then she's interested in posture. Whether you be, baby boom heading into the later years of your life, you're focused on posture. It's one of those things, and there's very few of them that kind of go cross-generational, match different kind of demographic, psychographics, is that we all know the importance of our posture. And we all really easily link posture to every area of well-being. And yet I'm fascinated that if I was starting a practice again tomorrow, I would jump neck deep into posture. Like, that would be all I would be talking about, branding on my communication, my focus, everything in around that too. So yeah, I love that that's happened. And I love, it doesn't surprise me also that you found it easy to get patients to come along to a posture class, and that you taught them something really simple like posture exercises, and it went so well. What sort of results have you seen from writing the book? What has it meant to you so far as a chiropractor in practice?
It's multiple, as you'd expect, right? So one is stroke the ego a little bit with a bit of confidence, right? And I think that's important, because the more confident we are, we have, as probably many people on this podcast have said, the best product in health service, right? We have it, but people don't know it. And so bridging that gap, I think, is the biggest one. Again, just that extension of how do we bridge that gap? So because the clients who are already in to see us,
yes,
it's a little bit easier. But how do we get out more to the public? How do we raise that?
So let me clarify. Has it helped your confidence in doing that, or has it helped the confidence of the people in your community in coming to see you, or both?
Both, right?
Yes.
So with my own confidence, yes, because it automatically being the author of a book, not a lot of people have done it.
No.
And I understand why now that I have. If the listeners have a think about, do you know anybody personally that's an author? And I bet you most audiences, most people will probably go, no, I don't. Like, I've seen people talk about it, but I don't actually know somebody who's done it. And so I think a lot of people think about being an author, though.
What was the most difficult part of it?
To be honest, was after the book, getting the online portion together, what I call the book after the book.
Yes.
Right. Because writing it, although it was a fair bit of research, I wanted to have some backing and research in it. So it's all referenced and stuff like that. But it's stuff I've done, right? Most of it I've done for a long time. So putting it together was a big one. I got a lot of help with editing and all of that kind of stuff. I publisher done all that. So that was important. But afterwards, getting the tech side of things on track, because what I've done with the book now is, again, like I said, the book behind the book is getting it out to people, because there's no good being an author and having your mom and your auntie have read it, right? What's the point? You need to get it out there. So getting the online portions, the funnels, I've got things like a free 7 days to a better back guide that directs back to the book. And then there's an upsell to a 30-day move to improve posture program. And then really that's all designed to help bring people into the office. So you want to use that. You can use it as a full like national, international marketing, but really as is your local community that you want to impact the most to get to transfer them into your practice.
And so just, to clarify that on our audience, really the book is part of a lead gen strategy that you're using to get more people to know you, like you, and trust you.
Absolutely.
And then rather than, which is fabulous there too, and people often don't think about, as you talked about, the book behind the book. Rather than getting people to go in and straight away and to buy the book and download the book, there are shortened versions of that you talked about before, which are kind of free versions, of little lead magnets or PDF downloads, cheat sheets that they can go down to as well. And then on top of that as well, you've got a paid 30-day program that somebody could do from around the world if they happen to not be on the Gold Coast.
Exactly right. Yes. Yeah. And so like, again, it's like doing a posture class with me, but you can do it anywhere.
And so if that first step into that funnel is really through one of those downloads that you talked about before, how are you getting that download out to people in your community?
Sharing it through emails and having people shared, people asking me, and then strategy coming up in the new year will be actually going onto Facebook to try and see how that goes.
Yes. With paid advertising?
Yes. Yeah. With both, with organic and paid. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. And then in terms of what has your experience been that when people have engaged with the book first, or any of the lead magnet, any of the funnel first, when they've ended up inside of your practice, what's your experience been of those people as far as their readiness to start care?
As you would expect, significantly different, right? Like most Facebook ads these days are, hey, I'm Joe Blow, chiropractor, and I've got an amazing deal for you, right? Come in and blah, blah, blah. And that's commodities, right? That's the lowest price.
Yeah.
So that was one of the first things I could see, is that you don't need to discount so much when they've already know, like, and trust you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's always the challenge in that, for you guys to think about, if the only way you're differentiating yourself from the other chiropractors in the town is the fact that you've got a $27 new patient offer, like, be concerned about that, because I could come in and move next door and have a $17 new offer. And then you're going to go to $7. And then eventually we have this race towards the bottom. And we never, not that we never want to, but if that's the only thing that you're doing to differentiate yourself, then we're incredibly vulnerable. I think a much better way to differentiate yourself is with authority and expertise, which is exactly what this book has done. Is it said, here's how we're different. I've written the book on posture. I've written the book on keeping you moving, this kind of stuff there too. And then along with showing up that way too, what's neat about it is you also build a little bit of celebrity as well, because as you talked about before, not everyone's written a book. Like, not only is Scott an expert on posture and movement there too, but he's a bit of a celebrity because he's written the book on it as well. You mentioned to me kind of beforehand that underneath this book was a strategy really to grow your influence and your authority, but not only for yourself, there was a kind of bigger vision for that too, in terms of for what it could do for chiropractic. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so this idea actually came about from my publisher. I didn't think of it. I had thought of it as exactly that, to help me within my own local community to grow my influence and just have more fun in practice, right? More ideal clients, because especially for myself, I love this movement game, right? This morning I was saying I was busy. One of the things is I went for a 10-kilometer trail run. So I'm very active and I love that side of things. So that's my ideal clients, not necessarily high-end sports people, but just active people who love to be fit and healthy. So that's part of my ideal client, because I love dealing with people and having chats about that stuff. And when you're seen as that expert, they do ask some pretty cool questions and you're able to respond in a really cool way. So for that, the extension of it from my publisher was, he said, listen, I think this is a fantastic idea. He loved the book. Him and his wife, actually his wife loved it even more, because she'd had a couple of back surgeries, and so she was down that route and was loving the idea. It was actually trying out the exercises as she was helping edit the book and things like that. And he said, listen, what you can do with this book is you can white label it. And so basically what that means is you can get other chiropractors on board to co-author this book with you. You can change out, for example, like the acknowledgements, the dedication, the introduction, the description of what chiropractic is, a bunch of those bits. But the basis of the book is the same. The cover's different. The title is different. So there's no sort of crossover that way. But then utilize all of that strategy and all of the book behind the book, the funnels, all that stuff is all done. And utilize that with being a co-author within, again, your local community without having to do I've worked it out around 1,500 hours so far, and well in excess of the tens of thousands of dollars to get this program off the ground. And you can do it as a chiropractor with me as a co-author, right? So it's super cool idea to really help boost the profession, because if we can get a number of people out there who are authors, who then get onto the media and who are getting that word out even further and distinguishing themselves from Joe Blow chiropractor who wants to do the $17 deal, then that's going to grow the profession and help change the communities.
I think I've been fascinated to learn over these last 5 years how many of the authors that I've really liked have found out that their books are probably written by somebody else, or at least a significant chunk of them they are supported with. And so in the publishing industry, this idea is very well known. And there might be some of our listeners out there think, is that the right way to go about writing a book? Well, that's the way that a lot of books get written. They're written by somebody else. Somebody else is, paid to write it for you. In fact, there are whole kind of companies now that, will either interview you, ask you the questions, and then put it together in a framework. I think Tucker Max is one that's very well known for doing that type of work to speed it up. But that sounds like a brilliant strategy for somebody to add a level of authenticity to their book, add a bit of their stories in the descriptions, the way they see chiropractic, and then piggyback on your hard work as well to help them kind of become a published author.
Exactly right. And it's not for everybody. Like, you've got to have some level of wanting posture to be part of your practice and understanding that movement's important and understanding that home exercises for clients and stuff, all that's important, right? If that's not the way you practice, then obviously this isn't going to work for you.
Yeah. And I got to imagine too, they need to be prepared to have some of that back end set up as well, because having the book in your practice there, whilst it's valuable for you to be kind of communicating with your existing patients and perhaps some of the new ones that come in, but there needs to be that promotional strategy in behind to make it work also. Will that be something that you'll be offering to help people with as well?
That's actually the biggest part I find, right? Besides the, again, say 1,500 hours to put everything together and multiple tens of thousands of dollars, which it is nowhere near that cost. So I'm super excited to be able to get this out, and it's sort of much more affordable than you might think to do it. All of the book behind the book stuff is done for you. And me as a still practicing practitioner, I'm going overboard with that stuff because I know how much I hate that stuff. As a practitioner, to go, oh my God, you got to get me to do what? And then this, and like a Facebook guy comes in and, well, you need to do this and this and this and this. And it's like, well, you know what? We're going to do pretty much everything we can to make this as easy as possible. So you keep practicing. It does not take, we're talking like, it'll probably take 6 to 8 weeks to have a book in your practice. And all of the sort of lead magnets, all of that stuff completely branded for your own book.
Yeah. So let's double tap on that. Tell me what the ultimate vision of that would be. Like if I said to you, hey, Scott, I love the idea of this. Posture is a big part of my practice, and or I want it to be a big part of my practice. How do we get the ball rolling? What's needed? What's timeframes? What are the deliverables in the end that I can expect to have in my practice?
Yeah. So like I said, typically it's going to be around that 6 to 8 week mark. Depending on what, there's different tiers to this, of course, with how much you want it to be hands off, so to speak. There'll be a lower program for people who are ready to do more of their own stuff. And then the top tiers, like everything's included. We get your Facebook ads, you get your Google reviews, we get all of this stuff basically done for you. So like the major deliverables are, of course, you get a hard copy book that we work together to find what title would suit you and what branding and all of that stuff. You get your ebooks, so unlimited sort of PDFs that you can give out for free if you want, but then also the ebooks online that you can sell all around the world.
Yep.
The deliverables on the program, as far as like say the lead magnets. So at this stage, we've got PDFs on how to set up your home office for success, best guide to sleep, probably 4 or 5 already. And then the idea is that once this thing starts to get going, we're going to create a new one every month, so that every month you have a brand new ebook / deliverable that you can continue to get out to your people or to use as a new lead, right? So not the same old stuff, like us, the same old Facebook ads that the people use for 3 years, that type of thing. So new stuff every month. On top of that, one of my visions is actually to get a health and lifestyle magazine created. So once I get enough chiros on board with this, and I'm able to put the resources into it, instead of your generic monthly newsletter, what happens is all your clients will get a health and lifestyle magazine that again will be sort of branded for your practice out there. And I'll be interviewing, as time goes on, hopefully interviewing some pretty cool people inside the magazine and creating a really awesome way to keep in touch rather than your typical newsletter.
I love it. And such a nice way, to think about that. If there are new lead magnets. And so just again, to simplify for our audience there too, this would be, a high quality, in essence, I like to think of these things as an ethical bribe where, we would advertise them and probably paid advertise them out on Facebook and Instagram. You don't need to spend lots of money boosting that to people within our community that might be sharing how to set up your home office, for instance, there too. Give me your name and email address and I'll send it to you. And then we would send that to them and we would continue to follow up with cool and helpful advice. And occasionally we would invite them into the practice. And as we built that relationship, and you could have all of this going on in the background, building authority and influence, as opposed to having your monthly ads that you're running for your $27 initial consultation. So you're building value the whole time through there. And this seems to me to be a really great way to become an author without the hundreds or thousands of hours that you talked about before, and then to jump on. I really like the idea too that I'm not going to have the same title that you had as well. I can get a new cover design. I can have a level of authenticity that might kind of match me and my brand colors and things like that as well. Is this something that, is it ready to go now? Can people be reaching out to you pretty much from now saying, look, great, let's get the ball rolling?
Yeah, actually, I mean, right now as we speak, I don't know when this will.
January. Yeah, we're January now. Yeah.
Pretty much as of January, doing a 5 chiropractor here in Australia beta group, right? Cool. So everything's ready to go. We've got the tech behind us ready to go. We've got the people who know what they're doing to get all this done. And so ready to go with 5 people for beta group for ridiculous cheap. I'm not going to make any money from this, and basically want to get these 5 chiros on board and proof of concept at this stage to really get this thing going, because I know it works. For myself, it does. And really cool little bonus is if you want to do a little bit of work, I won't be guaranteeing, because guaranteeing is a bad idea, but with a little bit of work, we can get you Amazon bestseller. Which is very, very cool added bonus, because I've done it, with my book, I hit Amazon bestseller 7 times. Yeah. So I know the strategy now, how to do it properly. And so without the guarantee, I would almost guarantee with a little bit of work that we can hit your bestseller, and then that can go on the cover of the book as well.
Great. So on top of that, they're going to get their own Amazon listing as well. Yeah, great. What's your long-term vision with this? What are you hopeful that will happen?
I honestly am uncertain is the biggest vision, right? Like at this stage, being at the beginning, I really want to get some chiros and get this proof on board, right? I really want to help chiropractors. We'll back up a bit, like whether it's luck or fortune or whatever, I've had a very successful practice for a long time. And so me creating the book wasn't going to make me successful, because as far as a practice, I already am and already was. And so, but I know a lot of chiros are struggling, and I know that there's, you're trying everything, right? You're trying the $19, which just devalues everything, right? So I think this is truly a way to help chiropractors up their game in their local communities. And that's, I want to stress that although this can be global, and it will be, your book will be on Amazon, anyone can buy it. You got, relatives overseas, they'll buy it. This is really a strategy to grow your local authority and influence, because that as a chiropractor, as a practicing chiropractor is the most important part. Yeah.
I like it. I'm excited to see where it goes. And I've seen versions of this, but not as thorough and as, that you've laid out with this too. How do peeps find you, Scott? Like if they're interested in either just observing what's happening or wanting to reach out to you to find out a little bit more, how do they go about that?
Yeah, well, check out my my brand new page, personal brand page. So it's drscottvatcher.com. So
Yes.
drscottvatcher.com.
Yeah.
And so with, I still actually haven't given you the half of what we're offering. Like it blows my mind. I get so excited, right? So one of them is a landing page directly for your book that we can connect to your practice, et cetera.
Great.
So check out my webpage, my drscottvatcher.com. There's some really cool stuff that I haven't seen on websites, especially in the health space. So like using tools like basically like a chat bot, but it's a video of me. Right. So just head to the site and have a look. And it's super cool, super easy stuff to put into either your practice website or your page that we create for you, et cetera. Really cool, very interactive, very much increase you get to know people, right? Because they see a video, it's interactive, straight up.
Yes. Yeah, I was looking at your website earlier today. I didn't have a peek around at that video, but it's a lovely, nice, professional looking website. That's how I kind of learnt about your work with Vince and, some of the other things that you've done there as well. And sadly, so many chiropractors' websites were developed 20 years ago and haven't been looked at since. They're embarrassing. And if I'm coming to a website that looks like it's, dusty. Yeah, totally. I'm going to rightly assume that that's probably the same interest that you take in looking after your patients as what you do with your digital online presence as well. So drscottvatcher.com is a spot to. I'll make sure I kind of have all those links in the show notes there too. Buddy, I'm thrilled for you. Congratulations on putting this together. It's interesting, and I know firsthand. I wrote a book called Bulletproof Your Back about a decade ago, and I wrote the first book. I didn't write the book after the book. It's sitting there as a big PDF document, all edited up and ready to go. And by the time I got through that, I was exhausted. So to then get into the next part of it, it never happened, and I got sidetracked and all those kind of things there too. So congratulations on doing that, because I know firsthand the effort it takes to put something like that together is enormous. And then congratulations too on the business model going forwards. I love it. I think it's
it's very exciting. Very exciting. For both of us transitioning out and having that bigger picture, right? That sort of, I've done it. I've been successful in practice. I know how to do that. Now I want to help others sort of do a similar thing with a different niche, right? We all have our little differences that, depending on who we attract, can make such a huge difference in this profession. So that's super exciting to sort of turn to a new chapter, so to speak.
Yeah, well, buddy, I'm thrilled for you. I want to wish you all the best in this new chapter as well. I hope it's a wonderful success, because if it is, it'll be a great success for chiropractic and chiropractors as well. So, mate, thank you for all that you continue to do. I'm going to hand the mic over to you for any last thoughts that you would like to share before signing off.
All right. The only thing that actually you brought up that I'd like to say to the chiropractors, if you're thinking like, oh, that's a cool idea, or I feel like I want to be an author, or, I have a book in me, or that type of thing, even reach out and just ask how I did that, right? Because my book and white labeling and co-authoring with me may not be the way to go. If you've truly got something inside of you that you really need to get out, I can help with that. I'm actually considering making that part of the program as well as a top level that I'll help you do everything to write completely your own book. But if you're really wanting to essentially grow your practice, have a better lifestyle, have more fun, attract more ideal clients, then take me up on, looking further at this offer, because with such a minimal amount of work, and you'd be surprised at how cheap it could be to help you really help grow your practice. So there are lots of other people doing it. Like you said, as I talked to a guy the other day, he's like, oh yeah, I got a guy in IT who's written a cybersecurity book, and he's co-authoring with other IT guys to help them grow their businesses. So this is not new. It's just, I haven't heard of it inside this space. So it's super exciting, and I think it could make a major impact. So at least, that's my perspective. I really hope it does.
Love it. Gang, go and check out drscottvatcher.com. Have a chat with him. I firsthand, let me just kind of mirror back at you. Scott is one of the most generous, authentic people I've come across. We have known each other for some time, but you reached out recently with a generous offer to help me with a promotion I was doing there too. And so thank you for that too, that you are. This is the kind of character that you are. And I look forward to an ongoing and continued relationship, buddy. So enjoy the road trip that you're about to head on.
Yes, thank you. Can't wait.
Take care, mate. Bye.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.